All right, this is a special board meeting here on March 29th. It's at 8:57, I got it. It's called to order. A roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Mrs. Bedio?
Here.
Mr. Bonacci?
Here.
Matthews?
Here.
Mrs. Powers?
Here.
Let's stand for pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item number 3, you have a superintendent's recommendation. Dr. Jones.
Thanks, Mr. Bonacci. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the ratification of the master agreement between the Stow Munroe Falls Board of Education and Stow Classified Employees Association. I have a resolution to read. Whereas the Stow Munroe Falls City School District Board of Education and the Stow Classified Association, an OEA-NEA affiliate, engaged in negotiations for a successor collective bargaining agreement between the board and SMFCEA. And whereas the board and SMFCEA have reached a tentative agreement regarding a collective bargaining agreement dated July 1, 2013 to June 30, 2016, and a successor agreement dated July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2017. Providing the treasurer can certify the funds. And whereas the SMFCEA ratified the master agreement on March 13, 2014, and whereas the board has determined that it is in the best interest of the district to ratify the master agreement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Stow Munroe Falls City School District, County of Summit, Ohio, that 1, the board ratifies the master agreement. 2, the board authorizes the board president and superintendent to sign the master agreement and authorizes any other necessary actions consistent with the resolution. And 3, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of the board and of any of its committees concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this board or committees, and that all deliberations of this board and of any of its committees that resulted in such formal actions were in meetings open to the public in compliance with the law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and immediately after its adoption. I'd like to also thank Mrs. Bedio, Mr. Armstrong for their work and the negotiating team, as well as Mrs. Baldwin, of course. And Harvey? And Dick and Karen formally on it, absolutely. And also Mrs. Houston is here, President of the Association. I'd like to thank you for your leadership and bringing an attitude to the table that you're fighting for your people, as you should, but also conciliatory and looking to get an agreement done. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Armstrong, second by Ms. Bedio. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Bedio?
Aye.
Mr. Bonacci?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Excellent.
Should I text you that we ratified?
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very, I enjoyed working with
We have labor peace in all groups for 4 years, so that's a great thing. So
Several easy years.
again, I'd like to personally thank Rod and Jerry and Kathy and Russ and Deb and everybody who was involved in that. I know it's a long
you.
process.
And especially Ms. Bradshaw.
Scratch over.
Yes, took notes, very good notes at every meeting.
I think this one lasted even longer than the certified one, so it's congratulations to all of you to get it done. So again, it's a good thing for this school district in the city. Okay, now we move on to the work session, and let me say a few things before we get into this. First of all, we'll be taking no questions from the audience before, during, or after. This is a board work session. I call this work session obviously after the presentation on the condition, on the envelope study, the condition of our buildings. And I think it warranted time for all of us to sit back, go back home, look at it, come up with your ideas, And I'm hoping you all have ideas that we can all talk about and try to get an idea of priority of what we need to get done both now, this year, and in the future. Obviously, it's a big dollar amount. How are we going to fund it? Ways, ideas. Hear everyone's opinion is valid and is worth as much as anyone else's. I want this to be open discussion, and I don't want no finger pointing. I don't care what happened in the past. We're talking about today and going forward. How do we address this? And we can talk about all we want, how we got into this position. Obviously, money was always an issue, but I'm not going to get in too deep in the past. Let's talk about today and going forward. And what ideas do we have to address this? And I don't want any finger pointing, but just get the information out, discuss it, and hopefully we get out of here with a plan for not only this year, this summer, and also going forward. Sounds fair? Good enough? Okay. So with that, let's open this up, and we can go. People, speak up freely. Anyone, whoever wants to start, their ideas and comments. I even have this up here if you want to put some ideas up. I'll write it down, but that's kind of my thought process. Get the ideas out.
Well, my idea starts with getting the business manager. And I've put together, part of this presentation, a little thing to look at getting the business manager, because we've lost focus over the years. And if I can use this, have a zip drive to open some PDF files, hopefully those are open. And I'll give the board, I put together not only a business manager, but a plan going forward with this to the board. And it's really a brief presentation, but it's not, and the plan is really laid out some, where we can get the money, where we can, how we can finance it in the future.
While Mr. Armstrong's getting prepared, may I say a few things?
right.
First of all, the blanket envelope study was put into place with the group Ron and Steidel. They're the district's architects and engineers. They've been involved with the district for well over 20 years and have a very intimate, detailed idea of the status of our buildings. And for them to put this together it was easier than bringing someone in brand new. I want to remind the board that the exterior structure is all that this study was in phase 1. We have not gone into phase 2 yet, which would be an in-depth study of the internal systems in the buildings, as well as other needs in the buildings, for example, carpeting and things that the district is badly in need of as well. Items that keep our district operations and their facilities open, operating, and safe. So my suggestion would be, before we delve into a full idea of how we're going to approach this, one of the thoughts would be to complete this study and then look at the full cost. This is in its scope, it was a $6.4 million ticket item right now.
And that's part of what I want to do, is get in a complete full cost.
Well, we don't have a full
We don't.
cost yet. And so my suggestion would be is to look at the full scope. The district has multiple needs that incorporate what would be considered capital outlay in terms of the budget expenditures and how they're identified, and that their funding is available through a permanent improvement levy that could bring resources into the district that could be restricted just for that purpose, not to be used for salaries. And it would be in a minimal scope. For example, a $1 million permanent improvement levy would cost the $100,000 homeowner $35 a year. $35 a year. What would that generate for the board and for the district to work on their facilities and to keep our operation open, operating, and safe? Would cost the $100,000 for homeowner, $35, and bring in almost $1 million a year for the board. So I want to put that out there. I think it's something to keep in the back of our heads. We and Braun and Steidl could back us up on this. They've been involved with the district for well over 20 years. They stated in their presentation, what you're looking at in this study did not just happen overnight. It didn't happen in the last 5 or 6 years. It's been going on for well over 20 years as well. Why? The district's operating funds have not been substantial enough to cover the costs. These are substantial costs and they're expensive, and they haven't been able to cover it.
All right, given that, I think we have a way to cover it, and I'm going to show a way to cover the costs over the next 15 years to 10 years here. Let's go back with, unfortunately, I have to do a little bit of history to say where we're at, okay? And how we got here. We had a business manager, okay? And the business manager structure, and then Russ and I met with the business manager from Hudson, and had some, and I mean, everything that he said was right here. I mean, it's right here. What he did, what his job duties were, and we had a structure where we focused on the business side of it. Okay, well, there's the learning side, the children's side, and there's the business side. We had someone who focused on that. And in that particular, forgive me, I'm a little nervous on that, early in the morning, the business manager's responsibility was to manage all support personnel, ensure the building maintenance, food service, transportation, technology procedures comply with all the state law, monitor safety, that's key. Monitor safety for our children, safety for everyone, okay, out there. Develop a plan to replace an aging school and act as the district's purchasing agent. Okay, that's another key. The business manager acted as the district's personal purchasing agent. Let's go over to that organizational structure here. I can find my cursor. What we had here was the business manager, treasurer. And as we go down through here, notice we had treasurer, treasurer assistant, assistant treasurer, and then the clerks and the payroll and that. We had the board of education, the superintendent, all three reporting to the board. Okay, as we cursor went down, you see with the division here, your custodian, should be talking to the board, the custodian, transportation, and food service, all were under the, and this is the same way it's basically set up at Hudson in almost every large school district our size in Ohio, in the state of Ohio, have a business manager. Now, a business manager isn't always reporting directly to the board. The business manager can report to the board or can report to the superintendent. But what that gives me is it gives me some separation here. I'm purchasing here, I'm approving it over here. I'm not, when you see the next structure, you'll see how the dysfunctional on this. So we have this whole the grounds, the taking care of the people, the kids, okay, taking care of the kids coming into work. All that's handled. If I have a purchase order, if I need something, I have someone to go to and I can go directly to the board on that. Now, that gives a business manager time to concentrate on the business side of the operation. That allows the superintendent to concentrate on the learning side. Okay, this is our core business right here. Okay, here's our core business. This we have to have to put for our kids to come to work. I mean, come to work. I'm used to the business presentation. to come to school every day. Okay, if they don't have a way to get to school, they're not going to be able to learn. If they don't have a building to learn in, they're not going to be able to learn. If they don't have good maintenance supervisors take care of that building, if they don't have food service, well, that's one up in the air. Some of the smaller districts don't have food service, but in a larger district like ours, yeah, people always learn to expect food service. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, having that focus, having that ability to go back. A little bit better, could I have put this in Excel, in PowerPoint, but I think this will get the point back. Having that, the business manager advised the board on all the permanent improvements. He went out there, he looked at the permanent improvements. Okay? The business manager did not go out and does not go out and hire an architect firm to do that and look at bids and do all that. Usually, unless there's something there, the businessman, unless they have to have a professional engineer sign something, the business manager, especially in Hudson, which I noticed, worked well with the city, well with the city engineer, and helped out tremendously in our discussion on that. Now, and that also allowed the business manager to get in that period of time, like 05, 04, 05, they put a business manager, the board put a business manager in place, and allowed to come up with over $1.5 million in savings at that point in time. Okay. There were savings and maintenance. On there. I'm not going to go into all this, all the individual savings and that, but there was, you have it on your board. I mean, the board has all these savings and that, but all this was put together. The one that didn't pan out, but the business manager came up with the idea. Okay, the business manager came up with the idea of this, but unfortunately, Monroe Falls wasn't real crazy about the oil drilling at that point in time. But the Broad Honeywell, the business manager, came in and they said, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fund all this? And this was a time when we didn't have a levy pass. Okay? Our bus services were falling apart and that. What we did was have HB 264 and did a loan. We bought buses. We upgraded that. And when you look at the study, one of the reasons that Fish Creek doesn't need a lot of work was because a lot of the money that we put in, we put all new windows in that with that particular, at that time, we put that as funds into Fish Creek, okay? That's why Fish Creek doesn't need the work that it needs in this study. And there was a plan, there was a plan that we saw at the last meeting to go forward and to continue purchasing the buses and to continue the investments. There was a plan in place at that time. All right? Let's see if there's any more here. So anyway.
Rod, may I interfere for 1 minute? I
Pardon?
think you also need to say that we have an interest of $1.3 million from that plan, that in interest from that plan?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we still have to pay for this.
Anytime, that goes without saying, or anytime you float a bond.
Right.
But what it does, it's matching, okay? If you don't have the funds here, you want, okay, how long does a building last? How long does a windows last?
But Rod, we're still
Well,
in
wait,
that,
let me
too,
go through it.
what we have to
It
pay
lasts
this.
15 years. A bus lasts 10 years, okay? The bus lasts 10 years. So why not spread that cost out over 10 years? Yeah, there's a time value of money, and yeah, I could come up and pay cash for everything.
But we
What
still owe
financial
on this,
advisor here-
Rod. These people need to know we still owe this.
Oh, in the buses,
2017,
right. The buses are coming
2022.
due, right, the buses are coming due, but it's only $200,000-300,000 a year. It's not 2 million, 3 million, 6 million right now.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, yeah, make sure, yeah, in fact, I'm going to show that, I have that as an exhibit in here. I have that as an exhibit, exactly that, how we spread that out. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about matching, a fundamental accounting concept. That's why you have depreciation, okay? That's how come a business will buy something and stick it up here and depreciate it over a useful life of it. And that's what we're doing. And there's a cost, yeah, there's a cost associated with that. But at lease purchase, it helps your cash flow. It helps us on the core business. We can continue to maintain the core business at only using $200,000 or $300,000 a month rather than. Now, do you need money up there? Do you need a sinking? Yes, and that's how come we have money and we could take it and we could use all of it. We could take the whole $20 million and we could just spend it, okay? But that's not what I'm saying. Okay. So let's go to present here, present condition. Where are we today? Okay. The elimination of the business managers created a dysfunctional organizational structure. Okay, that's what I was talking about, a dysfunctional organizational structure, which has again caused the district to lose focus on the support areas. Okay, we're losing focus on the support areas. And part of that, and now I'm going to jump to the present organizational structure. And you can see where yeah, this was a good one. All right, what happened here? What happened? All this here looks like here. We've added a position over here, which was assistant. But we didn't lose the business, the administrator's position for business, this business position. We added, that moved over here, the secretary for the business manager moved over here. So now we have this position of all these people reporting up to here. Come on. Russ, it's tough. Come on, tell me, buddy, it's tough.
It's the law.
Yeah.
I would say,
It's the law.
I would say that I would move along that Director of Special Services and Director of Curriculum Instruction line. I would slide the Technology Coordinator on that line, Custodial Maintenance Supervisor Jason on that line, Larry Connolly, the Transportation, Diane Simcoe, and EMIS. I'd put all those on a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Across the
all,
line there.
yeah, and it is on that line, as you come across.
They're
it,
reporting to
You
me.
see that, yeah, all these people here are reporting to you.
Right.
Okay, that's what the line is, you're right, that's exactly right. They're all reporting to you. Who does the purchasing? Over here doing the purchasing. Okay? I need something in here. Now I gotta go across functional lines over here to buy, to get something.
I would like to correct you on that. The superintendent and I are sharing the business manager role.
That's exactly
And the
right.
superintendent is the purchasing agent. of the
But,
business.
but the people report to the superintendent.
Yes, and
Yes,
that's the law.
the people
He is-
report, that's the law, that's correct.
He's responsible for everyone reporting to him.
Right, that is the law.
Except the
And
treasurer.
that's why I'm saying you need that business manager here in here. Because I purchase over here, the people report here, it's dysfunctional. Okay, now, let's move back to the, and notice this, I mean, we really didn't, added a position here to help out because of the purchasing and some of the shared business manager. This position wasn't here, it didn't exist in the prior.
Can you explain the dysfunctional component?
Dysfunctional is that it cannot flow, the business can't flow. Okay, I'm going across functional lines, okay? In order to get something done here or here. These people here, they don't even know who they really report to.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes.
Please.
the-
But
yeah.
I'm fairly
yeah,
certain
they do.
Oh,
They
okay,
do.
good, I'm glad they do,
Okay.
because
What-
when I go to buy
what's
something,
why-
the organizational line isn't
What
there.
specifically has gone wrong here?
what I was just wondering.
I think, Rod, it's very simplistic what you're trying to say here is, and my viewpoint is, when we made these cuts during the times of lack of money, and we're trying to, there's a big push from the public to cut the staff here in the central office. Those decisions were made, and whatever reason, I don't know. But in all fairness, I think we have put a tremendous burden on the superintendent to be responsible for the entire school district here outside of the financial side of the business. I do think having custodial, the bus garage, all that stuff reporting under the superintendent is a tremendous amount of responsibility and a lot of your time. I think that's where you're getting.
That's what I'm getting at, and I'm not only getting at that, I'm getting at, we got rid of the business manager, but we outsourced a big part of his job.
I
Okay,
would, I would beg to differ with you
okay,
about that.
what we did here, okay, we paid an average of $10,000 a month in attorney fees to look at contracts. Okay, roughly, when we went back and went through these contracts, a lot of these were basic contracts that we talked about with the business manager from the Hudson that he does, that he looks at. Okay, doesn't have an attorney looking at every contract, and a copier contract or whatever, standardized contracts like that. Attorney does, we're sending those all out for an attorney to look at, okay? Could it be because there's too much work for the treasurer? I don't know. The other one is we spend an average of $5,000 a month, and an average of $5,000 a month in architectural fees. That's an average, okay, over the different things.
Rod, can I stop you one more time?
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I think Fred started the meeting saying we weren't going to do history, and we're going history. But you know, the bottom line is, and Fred was right, we had no money. Instead of dissing this whole situation, I think we owe both Kathy and Russ a thank you. And I'm not sure how much they have saved us over these last, now I've been off board, 2 years? Okay, I don't know how many millions, whatever's been saved by not having those two positions. And I do thank them for the extra workload. And I think they've done a very good job. Okay? And I mean, you're bringing up examples, they need to be contradicted.
What we're seeing, when we go back and look at it, we're seeing that getting rid of the business manager has actually cost us more money than what the business manager. So yes, it's easy, that's a real savings. I come up and say, I got this job, I got rid of it, right? But I didn't really get rid of the work. I didn't get rid of the work. I'm sending it out to attorneys, I'm sending it out to architects. That's $132,000 to $144,000 a year.
Rod, I was on board when Tom was treasurer or business manager, and we also used the same architects and we also used the lawyers. I think you need to go back. We used the lawyers for the same situations.
We did. And that's why it only took 70%, because we did use them. We did use them.
did.
We did use them for contracts for teachers. We did use them for all that. When we went back, we did use them for copy machines.
Yes, you did.
And we didn't use them for all that.
Yeah, Fred, please.
Okay. Anyway, let's go forward.
Let me interrupt you for a second. I think, let us look at all this stuff, right? I do want to get back to
You want to go through the solution now?
quickly, because I'm going to get back to the envelope study. And
This is getting back to the envelope study.
I understand that you're where you're at, and I respect that. There's also, we have time to talk about these buildings and the conditions and all that and plans. I know where your position is on the business manager, and I think we're going to discuss that at a different point and make a decision on that, along with some other things we're looking at.
We need to get this out, because what happens is, envelope study is tied into having a business manager. Envelope study, I'm talking $6 million out there. And if I don't have someone that's going to put focus on it, then I'm not going to vote for anything.
I get that, Rod, but it's not going to solve our problem.
Okay, so here's the proposal. Okay, yeah, here's where it's going to solve our problem. Okay, proposal. Bring back the business manager. Okay? Throw the study out the window. We look at a couple things that we need. Okay, we get the business manager in there. The business manager will go through and start to prioritize what we need at this point in time. Okay, now, did you want me to show the invoices? Like we have to show the invoices?
I'm not going out of detail right now.
Why we're here.
What I'm going to do now
No.
I would like
They
to
show
put a
the
little
further
bit
improvement.
Yeah, I want to.
I would like to put a little bit of perspective on the business manager cut, the board that was in place at the time that happened. We went through 6 years of asking for operational money that this district had not had, as it turned out, for 10 years by the time it passed. That position was cut in '09. Through this year, it has saved the district $600,000. Back in '05-06, when the business manager went out for a whopping $4 million almost in debt, the district had already started to ask for new money back then, and it went down in flames. So what did that debt cost us by the time we pay it off in 2021 is $1.3 million.
Yep.
The savings since '09 by not having one helped offset the cost of that. Perhaps we could have kept a business manager if we weren't in debt paying those kind of.
Well, that's about a tenth a year, and we had 10 new buses, okay? You had to buy those buses somewhere. How would you have got those buses?
And one more point.
How would you have gotten those buses?
One more
How would you
point
have gotten those buses?
Is
Wait
Ron
a minute, answer
Stidle-
me. How would you have gotten those
Okay.
10 buses?
We would have got them the way we're doing them now.
Oh,
Within the
okay, so we wouldn't have been able to
resources we have
transport our kids
pay
to
for
school.
them.
We wouldn't have been able to transport our kids to school because we would be buying 1 or 2
Yes, you
buses
would
a year.
have. Yes,
All
you
right.
would have.
Okay, here's the plan right here.
Let's get,
Okay,
wrap
here's
wrap
the
it
plan.
up. Let's
You
go
could have had
summarize
13
it now.
Here-
buses
this
for
is
that
what we're here
interest
for.
rate.
First of all, we need to get a business manager in order for the plan to work. In order for the plan to work, we need to get a business manager. Okay, we look at Highland and that now. What I didn't like about the study was a lot built into it. If you look, there was 15% built into everything. Okay, I took this at the base. And we need to, first thing when we talk to the business manager, what would the business manager do? So I go out, I get contract, I get bids on it, okay? I see what, where we're gonna go and that. So we go here, right? So these are, I put as high priority, it's $56,000. The drainage, Coal Bend, they've been there, they've been like this for a while. There's another year, try to get a business manager in there to look at it, is that gonna hurt? I don't know. In fact, I'd like to have the city come out and, maybe the city engineer to look at this here, this gas lines. That I consider a safety issue, and if it has been that long, and it has been that big of a safety issue, we should have addressed that for that little bit of money a long time ago, okay? One of the things, let's talk about safety issues. When we said we didn't have a business manager, you'll see it in there, is we had, how many? Over 100 fire code violations last year. That cost us a ton of money to correct, cost us a ton of money. That focus is what I need. That focus is what I need in here.
Hold on,
That's the
we need
focus.
some clarification here.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Jason a little thinking time, but there was a change with all the fire inspections. It was done locally, and this summer you're referring to the state, actually, fire inspector. There was a change in their regulations.
Correct.
You want to elaborate on some of the things that?
The state changed everything in the mandate book and updated it, and then we got a state inspector on top of it. Now, as you know, when you get inspectors, they could be all from the same office, and every one of them are looking for different things. We've had the same inspector since I've been here. That year it changed.
How long did it take us to correct all this?
About a year.
A year. It took us a year to correct.
But my point is.
You don't know you're in violation until you realize that
Until
they
they
changed.
tell you, it doesn't
Right,
matter
especially
who.
if they changed it.
Things stacked up by the fire protection. Okay, do you know that's a violation? Okay, that was one of it. Okay, boxes stacked up, that was in several buildings. Doors that won't close properly. Do you know that's a violation?
All right, let's,
Okay. I mean, if you want to get into this, I got all the detail
We
outside,
don't.
I can bring it in.
I don't
We
want
don't
to,
want to
bring it
get
in.
into it, Rod.
We don't.
Okay.
We came here for completely
Okay,
different
now we're gonna
purpose.
get, this is what,
He's not
so we're
listening.
here, okay? So we come here and we have, okay, do we do these or not? And this, I'm not sure.
this is why we're here today.
This is why we're here, right here.
You're pointing now, I mean, who else has a
Now,
chance?
this is how I'm here, but in order for this to work, I need this to work. We need this to work. As a district, we need this to work.
All right.
Okay, now, so, and we have on the roof here, The roof I put as a high priority. Roof, I think we have to continue with the roof, okay? Especially the way that roof is. Now, I'm not sure, all of a sudden we came up with an alternative bid here, using insulated versus non-insulated material, basically the same thickness, the same mills, everything else, that I'm not sure of, okay? Alternative, do we purchase a bus or do we go into lease a bus or whatever over the next so many years, lease purchase, okay? Now, that's $600,000. I'm saying that's about our capital fund for next. Now, we've pretty much spent the capital fund for this year by looking at the report, our report. So that would be like next year's capital fund, the whole $600,000 if we decide to do that, or we just take it out of general fund, whatever. But, you know, do we do, this is a big hunk here. Now, I put these two together because what we realized in here, when I looked at it, is we have the fixing the drain and we have the abatement. Now, I'm assuming the abatement is the asbestos abatement on the inside of that room that's not being used. What it is floor tiles. For its asbestos on floor tiles. And so do we go in, you know, if no one's using that room, do we go in and take the tile up now? Or do we do a different, when we get a business manager or something to look at this and do that as an overall? Because there's a lot of rooms in Lakeview that needs floor tile. If you go in there, they're down to concrete, and that's it. I think we did paint the concrete, right? So we're down to painted concrete and no tiles at Lakeview. Yeah, the inside, I mean, I went and looked at a couple of rooms in Lakeview, and they're not good.
So let's just, Rod.
Okay. Now, how do I get the money? Okay. Capital requirements is about, if I float a bond, okay, right now, okay, 15-year time what we did, the 300,000, okay, the payoff on that was the 300,000 a year, 45. Now there's interest, implied interest. We only get maybe about 3.2 million of this, okay, in here, of this 4.5. We only get around 3 million, and the buses would be about $80,000. So we get about $80,000, which would be probably close to 10 buses again, 9 buses. Okay, but this is what the annual cost would cost the district if we do that. Okay, so this costing the district $400,000 a year, right? If and again, now, where do I get the funds at? Okay, here's where I can get the funds, and really without putting much of effect on the district. Wouldn't hurt the district much more. Eliminating IB, Indian Trail, it's worth $150,000 a year, okay? Okay, have an IB coordinator. We have job openings right now, so we could fill that the IB coordinator could fall into that job opening and that, and without displacing anyone or anything else, and then the IB fees and the training, and that's, we're looking at about $150,000 a year. Okay, the math intervention coordinator. Okay, that means we have intervention specialists, okay? And we have, and only in math, we have someone up here that coordinates the math intervention. Now, if that's going to leave the district, we don't replace that. It's not putting the whole, you know, there's 100,000. Retirement. So when I'm talking about retirements, when we go down and we hire people to replace where we need people, there's longevity in the contract, okay? So what you get, you get this the first year, then slowly it goes down over 10 years. But what you get is, I hire someone in at $40,000 a year, someone retires who's making $70,000 a year. It's like a $30,000 difference. Roughly adding, we have more, I just threw in, you know, saying, okay, this is 80,000, I'll be conservative, okay? They would want to say, because now we're not hiring people at 40,000 because of new requirements coming across. We pretty much hire everyone pretty close to master's degrees in that because the state's requiring the master's degree. So we're hiring them at around 50,000. We're losing them at 75,000. Okay, so we're there on that. Okay, reduction in attorney fees. I know Ms. Bettio's been looking at that and is easily probably when you're paying $600,000 a year in attorney fees. Now, the other one I didn't see until I saw earlier. Okay, was the reduction of the secretary over if we have a business manager, the business manager, secretary reports to superintendent, now would move over, because that's a separate job, move over to the business manager, and we wouldn't have that extra need then for the secretary over in the treasurer's department that we have. So you can add another 60 onto that. So you have about $500,000, 500,000 a year. That would pay this up here. At no cost. It's paying the interest, it's paying all of it. Okay? And then bus replacement 2016, as we said, that schedule, okay, goes away. So then we buy more buses, and we keep our bus replacement schedule.
Okay. I'm gonna
And that's
ask you to
it.
wrap
That's
it up,
pretty
Rod,
much-
'cause,
That's wrapped up.
okay. And I appreciate the time you put in this, so give us time to read what you wrote. I'm gonna get back, so if you go back, I wanna go back and talk about this year, because that's what we gotta deal with right now. I understand your passion for business manager, and I think that position, along with presentations we'll have in April on the kindergarten, and also some other things, we'll have to take all these up and have our own discussion about that again, but I'm gonna resolve that question today on the business manager.
No.
I know where you're at, very clear, and we'll address that at the appropriate time. But what I'd like to get out here today with all of us is how we're gonna address this year, what we're gonna plan. I know the architects have made a recommendation on what they wanna get done this year. I wanna understand how we're gonna fund this dollar amount, if that's what we all agreed to right now. And then I understand, Rob, that the business manager has to be addressed, and if we do go that route, that person will be in place going into the following year. And also, obviously, that person will have a lot of input if we go that direction on future years. of what we do.
And that's my whole,
And I get
contention.
that.
My contention is, in order to put any type of plan of this magnitude in, we need focus. We need someone there who's gonna manage the business side of our operation.
I would agree. I would just add that you need financial resources to pay for it. The current 5-year forecast, the one that was submitted in October, shows in the 5th year a $500,000 cash balance out of a $60 million budget. We passed a new levy in 2011 to last 10 years. To add 400,000 more to the budget, it would bankrupt us sooner, and we would have to go for operating funds sooner.
Yeah. But didn't I just show how you could get 500,000?
I think.
I just showed you how you could get $500,000 a year out of the forecast.
Rod, you're taking a lot of it from the
And let me
children.
just add.
Why am I
Our
taking
levy
away-
was for the children.
Why am I taking away from?
Well, the coordinators, and you're talking about a secretary, Betty and Franca are the two secretaries. They don't have 3.
I'm not talking about any, no, I'm not.
Well, you said
There's,
60.
I would like
did
to
you see
just
the org-
bring
look at- go
to
back and look at the
everyone's
organization
attention-
chart.
Okay, hold on,
Example.
hold on.
I can put names to that if you want.
Well,
Hold
I
on,
would
one
like
person at a time.
to
Yes.
I don't want to give everyone.
with, and bring up to everyone's attention, even in the 5th year of the forecast, even if everything is so well, we end up with $5 million instead of 500,000. That is 1 month of operating money for this district. 1 month, $5 million. So I would say, business manager, yes, we get financial resources, bring in a business manager. As long as we can afford it, do it. I am all for that. What do we need? We need maintenance staff. We have 11 buildings, and Jason, would you like to share how many maintenance guys we have that work in 11 buildings?
3 technicians, 3 grounds people.
11 buildings. So we have had over the years, and the former board, Karen Powers, you were there for this levy ask, we have cut and cut and cut. We passed that levy with stating we would stay status quo. That was not bringing back those positions. If we're going to bring back those positions, we need to bring in financial resources to cover it. And I want to make sure we go on record to say that that is how we pass that levy. I don't want my integrity put on the line that we overstep that by going outside of the status quo.
I want to make sure we're all, the first board meeting this year, I had asked Rod to look at the business manager. He did it. He made his presentation. I thank you for that. He showed you ways to fund it. I think we all have to go back, read this in depth, all the stuff he gave us. We'll discuss this again. Okay, and then thank you, and just like I've asked about, Pat, your pledge was the all-day kindergarten, I believe you're gonna do in April, I believe, you're gonna do your presentation. That's what we asked for, we're gonna get it, we have to then take all this information, figure out how we're gonna, if we're gonna do this, how we're gonna fund it, where's the money gonna come from? Rod gave his opinion, we need to look at it and see if that's valid or not, and make a decision. It's not gonna be done today. So, what I wanna do is, and I'll give you a chance second, dear, is get past this business manager right now. We know it's out there, we have to address it, but what I wanna make sure is, I wanna understand exactly what we're doing this year to get some of these things, like the gas line. You had your list up there. I wanna make sure we're all in agreement. That's the priority right now. We know we got issues in funding the rest of this, whether it's a permanent improvement levy or whatever it is. How are we gonna go forward? And Rod's position is, we need to get the business manager to get his input going forward and get a plan. So, all those things gotta be addressed. But right now, today, this morning, what are we gonna do this year? I mean, the architects made a recommendation. It's more than what we got in a permanent improvement fund right now to fund what he said last board meeting. So are we gonna tap into the general fund this year to get this stuff done? That's what I'm gonna get done this morning. And so, and again, thanks for,
Okay, here's the
presentation.
thing,
Let's
the
move.
permanent improvement fund, okay, as of, the money goes back in there, it goes to June 30th.
Right,
And I think we'll get receipts in there after that, am I correct?
is that right?
When will be the next receipts?
The summer projects are funded by permanent improvement funds as they come in. And typically in March, the board does have a PowerPoint presentation that is presented with the experts identifying the priorities in the district, and we move forward with the public bid process. As a public purpose entity, public purpose money, by law, we do take every contract to the board. I want a point of clarification about that. And the reason for that is to protect the district. Fred, when you sat in on the Coke contract, one of the final things you said to me is, please tell me that an attorney's gonna look at this and that you do bring contracts to the board that are legally reviewed. There are things that can go in contracts that can be very costly for districts and be very dangerous and risky when it comes to public purpose funds. That has always been the practice in the district.
Has not.
As well as the group, Braun and Steidel Architects, were hired way long time ago. And that practice that the former business manager did has been continued. And we do need to talk about the envelope study, but we did present on March 17 the recommendation of the administration for the summer projects this year.
Okay, on that, okay, we have not always taken every contract, and on a lot of contracts, and what practice in other districts was there is a set of rules, okay, attorney that protects the district. You just get that standardized set, make sure that's in every
You're right.
contract.
You're right.
And that's it, so they
That
don't
is
have to
correct.
review every
That's
contract.
correct, and they don't. When there's
Yeah,
a
that's-
question
but you
about,
just told everyone they
when
had to
there's
review
a
it.
question about language that's in the contract, that is going before the attorney.
I have a question. I
Sure,
have several
come on.
questions. I have reviewed this presentation on this envelope study for the past 3 weeks. It's making my head swim. Second of all, the comment was made today that the superintendent shares the business managers, and I'm not going to get into that, but I want to know, yeah, I know, Ms. Bugren, you have certification for business manager. What does the superintendent have?
He has
To
a
do this.
superintendent certificate, and you can do that function with that certificate.
He doesn't have to have a
No,
certain,
he doesn't.
like
He's
you
a
do?
superintendent.
Okay, I sent an email to Mr. Bonacci in regards to the study that was done, and I don't remember ever this coming before the board for approval to the expenditure. And I asked at that time, it was possibly in the 5-year forecast, but was it ever approved by the board to spend this money on this piece of paper? And how much did we spend on it?
The superintendent, by law being the purchasing agent, has the authority to put through services, purchase services, consultations, by law in his capacity. And the contracts that go before you, or the approvals for what we're talking about with this envelope study are subject to your approval when it's a public bid process. When it's triggered to be a public bid process, it does go through the board if the project's going to exceed $25,000. The envelope study and the exterior structure problems that you've reviewed have been determined by the licensed architect and engineer, which, by the way, by law, they have to write the specifications for. A business manager, unless they're a licensed architect or engineer, cannot write public bid specifications. That's the law. So why did they do this? Because they're the very people who will be involved in drawing up the specifications. They are the very people that are the experts in the field to determine the priorities in this district that are the more dangerous down to the least necessary.
I understand that, but it says here that the job that you're taking on, the responsibility is to supervise the maintenance, operation, repair of all buildings owned and leased by the district, and advertise for bids and develop requests for proposals. Now, this is not a proposal, this is a study that is telling us what is wrong with all the buildings and how much it's going to cost potentially, and what his charge is for doing this study. So I'm asking you, when was it board approved for this study to be done, and how much did it cost?
Jerry, I researching this, I think, and again, I wasn't on previous boards, but I think when a board approves a 5-year plan, which that was in the 5-year plan, when you approve that plan, you're basically approving that study of that 5-year plan. Now, the bigger question is down the road is we need to understand is there is no cap on what the superintendent or treasurer can approve in dollars. Like, so this is $80-some thousand. So is there a cap on where we go, how far before you come to a board on expenditure? 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 100,000? I'm not a bid, I'm just talking about this. So that's a whole different issue. But to answer that, I believe that's, if it was approved by the board on a 5-year plan and it was in the 5-year plan, I think.
That's what we're told. I know,
I mean, that's what I'm
something we
told,
need
but
to
that's
look
something
at,
you can't.
because.
That's the best I can answer your
Yeah.
question at this time.
Well, it bothers me that this study was done, and if we implement this architect to do this, he's taking in 3 or 4 different places, 10% here, 15% here, and his cost, and we're doubling and tripling the cost of what it needs to be
First of
done.
all, why would
Here's
it
part of the
bother you?
problem.
One at a time, one at a
Purpose
time.
of the
But why would
study-
it bother me? Because this is people's money
But the
that we're
purpose of
spending.
the study was to get us out of the reactive mode, because all we can do is react because of our financial situation. We've only been able to react to crisis when a building floods, or the lights go out, or the boiler breaks down. This was to put a plan in place, and after we complete phase 2, because some of these things need to be done in tandem to get the result, the money-saving result. This was done to put the district in a proactive mode so that we can start to set a routine maintenance schedule that eventually, once we get through these priorities, especially if we have income or resources to pay for these items, this district can function by taking care of its facilities in a routine maintenance schedule manner. So this should not bother you, because the very thing you're saying is we've lost focus. And what this is trying to do is put the focus back into place.
I understand that,
At a
but
$60,000 cost.
Well, let's talk about
That's half the
lawsuits
business
and how
manager's
much
salary
that's
for
been
this year.
costing us.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back and talk about the approval on there. Okay. The approval, saying, unfortunately, we approve a forecast that goes out 5 years. There's a lot of things at $60 million forecast per year, 5 years. Okay. $300 million. Something large. 4 out of 5 board members didn't even know this was in the forecast.
Well, then they didn't read the.
And,
They
well,
should-
yeah. There's a lot of things, because until a point in time, the whole forecast isn't even given to us. But what we're looking at is,
What do you mean it doesn't give it
It's
to us?
given.
I had to come in, when I came as a
Yeah.
board member, I had to request the backup detail. And that's where I found out that it was in the forecast,
Oh, I-
in
it's
that
also-
backup
it's-
detail,
it's
when I
written
asked what that
in the
particular line item
assumption.
was. Okay, but anyway, we're not gonna go past, we're not gonna, forget about that. I can't understand how, $60,000, and it originally went in at 84. The purchase order was wrote for 80-some thousand dollars. We're fortunate enough that it only cost us a little under 60,000. And I agree with Mr. Bonacci that we need to really look at some expenditures here. I mean, there's a
Well,
lot,
I was
we
really
have
not
to
prepared for
move
this
on a lot of
today.
stuff real fast.
Nobody is.
Nobody is.
Nobody is.
So-
Come on,
so
can we
let-
go
I want to
on?
go
Please,
back,
Fred.
I want to go back to the question you asked, and keep us online. He asked about the funds for the permanent improvement levy. Keep coming back to the basic thing that was done to last board meeting. We talked about the gas line replacements, which was up there. We talked about the drainage issues at Highland and Lakeview, and also the paving improvement. Those are the high items that he wanted to address this year. We're not gonna have a business manager in place if we go that route, so we have to make a decision today. I keep coming back, I'm trying to bring us all back. We gotta address this. Rod asked a question to you, the $560,000 that's on here, how much is in the permanent improvement plan today to pay this, and when does it get replenished? That's the question, so that's the question I need to, I'm a very black and white person, so just bring it down. I'm a business guy, so bring it down so I can understand what do we have in there right now to fund this, when does it get replenished, and if it's not gonna fund all this, do we go in the general fund for another $100,000 to finish this piece for this year? That's my question. So someone can keep it in.
Here's, first of all, just so everybody understands what permanent improvement is, these are monies collected from taxes paid. The 2013 calendar year tax bills went out in January. So as people pay those tax bills, the district begins the funds to come in. So what's in there right this minute, I don't know, I was not prepared.
$16,000 according to your last statement. That's a projection at the balance. Okay, if I look at your last, you can call it up on your last,
That was at the end of February.
no,
At
that's
this
projected
minute, I
year
don't
in the
know.
balance, 16,000, yeah, projected.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, okay, let me go online
Well,
here.
But
wait,
besides
wait.
that-
I'll call it up and tell you what.
Whatever, finish.
Okay. That being said, the monies come in as they are collected. And if we collect them all, it's approximately $600,000, of which about $240,000 is for debt. What the district has always done, and what I've helped facilitate, was in the event that we've started the project and we don't have the funds in the permanent improvement levy fund yet, we set aside a purchase order out of the general fund, because by law, we have to set aside the funds. We have to encumber the money by law in order for it to be a legal expenditure of the board before the board can enter into any activity being purchased. Once the permanent improvement money comes into the fund, we then make an adjustment and we charge the permanent improvement fund in its entirety. In the event that we didn't collect the full amount in the permanent improvement fund, or there were change orders attached to the projects that were done that exceeded the amount we had, the general fund has picked up the difference. So if you look at the 5-year forecast under the capital outlay line item, it's projected about $1 million every year spent out of the general fund to assist in capital purchases, maybe for instruction, which could include computers, it could include student desks, it could include smart boards, and/or additional project money to pay for things that get done. When we have a high priority like the gas line, the projects that were presented, the roof, the sub-zero weather created an issue with our roof over the gymnasium. That was presented on March 17th. We feel that's a critical project. we want to move forward with that. The administration wants to move forward with that, and we hope the board is with us, and with the Brown and Steidle recommendations as well. We will utilize every penny of the permanent improvement funds for those projects, and it will spill into general fund to cover the difference, if there is one.
So, based on what you just stated, if you look at the $240,000 in debt, which I think is part of it, that's the buses we did a long time ago, we have $360,000 a year in permanent improvement funds to play with, approximately.
In a calendar year.
In a calendar year. In a
Okay.
calendar year.
In
I know
a
it comes
calendar
in-
year. So your summer projects,
Okay, let me finish first. Okay, so $360,000 in a calendar year, based on when the taxes are paid by the public, whether it's in February, whether it's in August or whatever is May, whatever. Okay, so you got $360,000 in a perfect world on a calendar year. In improvement, so you got $240,000 in debt every year that you got to pay out. So that takes up to $600,000. You got $360,000 left, correct?
correct?
You got the plan here of just on the paving, the striping, the gas line replacements, the drainage, it's $564,000, okay? Then you got the roof here at $292 that needs to be fixed. So you
Well,
got,
wait a minute, let's back up. That 500, that dollars is the high dollars.
I'm talking high with, if it was
Okay,
done,
that's- yeah.
because
And
we
that's
don't have a
right.
business manager, yeah,
Right,
with
and
their,
that's
with their,
right. I mean, not even with the businessman.
With
We
the
have-
markup, I know.
We have a so-called, we have a businessman.
I know, that's
that
what.
need to go out
It's
with
an
bids.
estimate.
It's an estimate, Rod,
Realize that.
with the architect's markup on it,
Yeah.
okay, I got that. So what I'm coming down to, we got so basically right now, we got $652,000 of liability sitting out there. With the roof, with the gas lines, with the drainage, and the striping of the lots, okay? That's what we got out there, $652,000, all right? And so what you're gonna basically have here is you got about $290,000 you pull from general fund.
Correct.
So the question today is, do it, because these are priority items. This is what the architect said we need to do. We don't have a business manager in place, of course, no offense, a business manager in place today. I think we need to get this done. Then we're gonna have to address the business manager and get in place if that's what we're gonna do, so that person's intact going forward. But this is all we have to work with right now, and that's your expert right now out there is this architect. Now, striping, your conversation you had with the Hudson guy, that sometimes you got some councilmen here, that we do an alternative bid when you do your asphalt. Hudson goes on, puts an alternative bid with you guys when you do your roads, that do our lots, the stripe and all that stuff. When I got on this board, my whole thing was about collaboration with the city. We got the two biggest buying powers we got. We should be doing a hell of a lot more than what we do today. Whether it's asphalt, whether it's copy machines, whether it's whatever, we should be working together. And I don't think we do some, but I think there's a hell of a lot more we can do. That's just, I'm off my pulpit now. That's something Hudson does, why can't we? I mean, on the asphalt thing, it sounds like a good thing to do. So maybe we can do it less than $77,000 to stripe our lots. You know, save some money. That's just one thing. But anyway, today we got to make a decision. Are we all in do this or not, or majority or whatever? But that's what I'm hoping to get out of here before we leave here today, so we can direct Kathy, do it, and then address all our needs going forward at a later date.
You're talking about this gas line, and I presume it's at Lakeview and Highland.
Yeah, that's one to talk about the presentation.
I took a tour through Highland School, and if you've never gone through Highland School, it's a disaster. I've gone through the basement, the boiler is ready to blow, there's leaking in the pipes, it's like a sauna down there. You've got mold and mildew coming up through the walls. Going through the interior, I'm not talking about the exterior, because that's cosmetic in a lot of places. Going through the interior of the building, and we haven't even addressed fixing what damage has been done from the outside to the inside. The walls are peeling. I call it peeling. They're bubbling up because of the moisture coming in and up through the walls, and things are coming apart. The ceiling's falling down in some of the classrooms. I've gone through this, like I said before, over 3 weeks, going through what the damage has been done, and I know we can't go back to the past. That maintenance, if it was your home, it probably would have fallen apart by now. The thing of it is, with this gas line, I think we should close Highland School down. I think we should redistrict and make it K through 6 for the elementary, make Lakeview into an elementary school, and save ourselves almost $2 million by closing this school and potentially thinking about what we're going to do with it later on. There's $2 million or better in savings right there. This gas line is a priority, but Highland is a disaster. It's an old building. Maybe the foundation is okay, but the inside, the outside, everything, it's terrible. And the drainage problem, by the time you fix the drainage, you fill in the coal bin, you fix the mold problem and everything else, we're going to be investing $4 to $5 million in that one school. It's ridiculous.
Jerry, when you, closing Highland, are you suggesting we just distribute the kids in the other 5 elementary?
What I'm suggesting is put Lakeview, go back to the old K through 6 and redistrict and make Lakeview now an elementary, if you want to call it that.
Okay, so
Put the money into Lakeview.
all of our buildings will be K-6, is what you're saying.
We've had it that way for
I'm
years
just
before.
asking.
Yes,
I'm only asking.
redistrict.
Yeah, just asking.
Well, that's a fine suggestion, however, the one thing that you do need to realize is that there needs to be a demographic study done for that.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of time, so it's,
You're not gonna do it today.
right.
But why
Same
should
thing.
we put good money into bad?
Oh,
And
I
then
understand
later
that.
on,
I
you know,
totally understand your point, but what I'm saying is it's not like you can just make a decision that we're gonna close it and it has to be studied first.
I understand that.
That's what
But
she's bringing up. I
Are
think
you
what
saying it
Ms.
should be
Bedio's bringing
raised?
up at this point in time
Are you
is
suggesting
that
it be
we
raised?
not put a lot of money into a particular school. We get the tools in place that we need to take a look at it, and that there's nothing out there except for the gas lines in the roof that is super high priority, that is safety. Put the kids' safety first, okay? That's a high priority. Okay, then we back off a little bit. We go out to the appropriate authorities. So there's people down at the Ohio Department of Education, there's people at OB, the Ohio Board, school boards and all that that will help us out on these studies. I mean, we don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on this. Get somebody in here who can help us concentrate on our studies and that. And we move forward with being proactive on this.
I would like to remind the board that back in 2010, Karen Powers Pat were here, the former board, we went through a master plan. We did have people from the state come up and look at our facilities based on square footage per student and develop a plan that we then took out to the community. As we were asking for operational funds, the suggestion from the board was to close that building. We were surprised, to put it mildly, about the reaction from the community about that school and closing it. The board presented to the community, here are our options. That was one of them. The community said no. So where we understand what you're looking at, Jerry, and we have studied that and gone through that and agree with you.
I think that if the parents who have their kids in that building would actually go through the tour like I did, they would be appalled and say, take it down. And I'm not saying at this point
Yeah,
to
they were
take
the
it down,
parents, the
I'm
parents.
saying close it, close it.
Oh, boy.
I would not want my child in that building.
Could we
I
back
would,
up?
I would ask, okay, let's back up. First of all, I'd ask that Russ, Catherine, I would like to see that study that was done in 2009, that Kara's looking at 10, right? That she's got.
Sure.
So would you make that available to all of us to begin with?
Sure.
Yeah, and it's a tough decision. I see City of Kent's going through it right now when they're closing their
Right.
school, man. They're getting beat up. You talk to Anthony Horton, who used to be our principal, they'll tell you that it's not a popular decision. But you owe that. We have to look at it. Our district is down to 5,200 kids now. I mean, 2010 10, we're probably closer to 6,000.
Down to.
Right.
So, yeah, there is that trend, and we have to look, like you said,
And I agree with you, because I personally take a different view than Jerry's on that one. I like Highland, I think it has good bones. I think some of the schools we built in the 60s don't have those bones, and will probably fall apart before Highland really does. That's why I like to have, so I'm really look at it, and, you know, with what the cost would be to put into the school. I mean, you know, you go into that school, and it's the way, to me, the way the school's supposed to look, you know? It's it has terrazzo floors, it's good, it's a good solid building, you know, and that. And I go into some of the other ones, and I'm going, oh gee, this was kind of built cheap here back in the 60s, you know, and that.
And I think what-
Anyway, but I'd like to bring something up, though. You know, we did a demographic study here. Our largest square footage school, okay, is Indian Trail, of elementaries, not including, okay, 42,000 square foot. Okay, Fish Creek, it only has 299 population, 299 kids. Okay, Fish Creek, which is only 30,000 square foot, 30,652 square foot, has a population of 380 students. I mean, yeah, do we need to look at this somehow? Yeah, I think we do. I see a lot, most of them are kind of here. Even Echo is 41, it's at 41,000, it's close to Indian. And the two, even though Fish Creek and Echo are close together, I got 319 students in Echo, which is a 41,000 square foot school. And I got 380 right down the road, in a 10,000 less square footage school, I have 60 more students. So, yeah, is there something here?
There's one thing, though, that you have to keep in mind. That is the number of students attending our buildings today. But the district, being public education institution, has to keep in mind the number of students in the community that you are responsible to serve. We have quite a few going out to community schools, and if something should happen to those community schools or those students come back, you can't build a building for 200 children
talking
when you
about
have 400 in that.
We have lost in
grade.
the past 5 years over 800 students in population. We have lost 800.
You've lost
Okay.
them into our buildings, but they're still being educated in
That's why I'm
other
saying to you,
arenas
we need
and
to
could come
redistrict
back.
and do these, and not spend money throwing it into something that is,
That's
you know.
not our purpose for being here today.
yeah, I'm
we
trying
need
to
to
corral
get
us back.
back.
We're corralling you back
Yeah, we
in,
need
guys.
to get back.
Jerry, that's well taken.
Right.
And it's a good point, and I think we have to look at that, I do.
Well,
Maybe
you're
we-
talking about voting on getting this gas line, which is priority, because I don't want those school buildings.
Right, so that's $180,000.
Well,
But
Jerry-
I'm talking about, why should we, you know, we've got two buildings, Lakeview and Highland, that are affected by this gas line.
Mhm.
And the thing of it is, with Highland, why would we put even $100,000 or even $50,000 into that building when it's in such bad shape? And then we're not talking about the internal guts of it, when everything is coming apart,
But-
ceilings
But
are
the
falling
safety of
down.
the kids, we can't decide that by September.
To assist
I mean-
Fred in bringing this all back,
Yeah.
Okay, what I would support, okay, in the study, get back to Fred's thing,
Thank
I
you.
would support the two gas lines, the roof, and fixing the leak, not necessarily the abatement right now, but the leak over at Lakeview.
That's causing that.
Yeah, I
Flow
would say
into the
those are
building.
probably top priority things right now.
And we're getting back to it, I like it. Good.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
We're getting back to where I'm trying to get to. Yes,
What about the boiler system?
that's a whole, that's the internal
That's
side.
interior.
That, I know that's interior, but you know what? It's costing us in water, it's costing us in heating when it's being used, because you go down there, honest to God, it's a sauna, and on the floor, we've got water this hot. And we've got
Again-
something going to
again,
siphon
get
it off.
back to
I think,
our
and I think that's
president
something we're gonna
wants
have to
this.
address. I mean,
But
but
that-
that's
why-
where
why
I need
To
the
get
business.
back to this, the total of just exterior structure, 6.4 million. 1.3 of that is Highland, 1.3. We still have a substantial amount of money and work that needs to be done that isn't, even if we didn't do anything to Highland, we still have over $5 million in project, just in the exterior structures of our.
But, you know, and as you hold this book up and say $6.2 million, 6.2 million total, okay? Let's put in that's a range. Because if you take out and you go back, it starts at 3.7 million, okay, for total. Then there's a lot added on to that to get to the 6.7, okay? So that's where we need to focus, okay, as we hold the book up and do that.
Okay, I'm gonna take my turn now.
Take
Okay.
your turn.
I'm gonna take my turn.
Thank you.
Okay, Fred. I mean, really, we have to make a decision about short term, and especially with the gas lines, et cetera. We have safety of our children involved. And as we've already talked around, we're only looking at the exterior of the buildings, okay? We haven't even, as we just discussed, gone into the interior of the buildings. I would like us to look at a long-term solution for this. Okay, our newest building is the high school, what is it, 27, okay, years old. And I happen to agree with Rod on the fact that, you know, some of our older buildings were built well. I mean, you know, you have to look at that. But we also have the interior needs. We also need buses that could be included, that we're going to have to need. Technology, the state is mandating. We might need wiring in these buildings that we have to look at. Okay, so my idea or my suggestion is we take care of the short term out of the money that we have and then use some of the general funds. And then, and we have a lot of the public here, and I don't know what their opinion would be, but we do go to the community for a permanent improvement, for one meal, just one meal. And if we approach it correctly and the people know who have houses, you have to have money to keep them in repair. What we're looking at is going to need money all the time for these buildings. Definitely are going to need additional money. We can't rob it out of the general fund all the time. The general fund is there for the children purposes, improvement in education, our staffing, which I have to, they're not here, but I have to thank them so much for going 2 years without a salary increase, which made us get our levy passed the last time. But anyway, that was my suggestion, and I'm going to quit. Short term, take care of it now with using what we have, $360,000 out of permanent improvement money, and then take the rest out of the general fund. But we need to look at a long-term solution for this. This is not going to go away. This is not, and whether we close a school or not, we still have other buildings and buses that are going to be needed for the future.
And
So,
I agree 100%. That's exactly what I've been saying with the long-term solution that I put up on the board with the business manager and that, to develop that long-term
and we
solution.
would have the money then for a business
Well, I don't,
manager.
but I disagree with taxes. I think, like any business out there, we need to find an offset. We can. I found 5/10 for you right there.
And those are all
Bill?
from the kids.
No, that was not from the kids. I don't see where the secretary is going to hurt the kids. I don't see how that math coordinator is going to hurt the kids.
Well, the math coordinator,
I think our people are perfectly capable of doing that job on their own.
Okay.
Rod, we slashed that, when my second year on board, we went over this when we couldn't get a levy passed. We couldn't
Okay.
get a levy passed. We slashed everywhere,
Right.
everywhere.
Obviously, there's a little more out
I'm
there.
bringing you back again, one more time.
Okay.
The only question I'll have, I think we all agree the gas lines gotta get fixed. Safety concern, okay? Gas lines are, we gotta get the high school roof fixed, it's leaking on the court.
Yep.
Gotta get that done. So gas-
All support is leaking
We all
on the
agree
court.
there?
Right.
Good? So that's two, okay? The only other, the third thing was the drainage. I think that's.
Lakeview.
Lakeview, that's critical. Gotta get that
We
done.
can do that.
Now, my other question here, filling a cold room at Highland, it's 150 grand. They got the block, do we do that now, right now, or do we wait? That's my question.
How long have we been doing with it the way it is?
Well, they just got it blocked off, the way I understand, on the parking lot, so no cars go over.
Well, how long has it been like that?
I couldn't tell you.
85 years.
Yeah,
Is
as long as the
one-
building's been built.
When they took the coal out.
Is 1 year, here's why I look at it, is 1 year
long as we
we
build
put
into
a-
it.
commit to put a plan together.
Because
We got an architect here, maybe he could.
because my point is, if we don't fill that in, if that boiler's in that bad a shape, I don't know,
Need that space.
it's not in that bad a shape?
The boiler is not in that bad of shape. The plumbing throughout the building isn't in that bad of shape. A lot of that plumbing is underneath concrete, which is actually contained in the building itself.
Well,
You can't get
Jason,
to it
I'm
without
not,
that.
I'm not in your category, and I'm not a maintenance person, but I'll tell you what, when I was down there and we've got those steam pipes leaking, and you've got that mold, and you've got water on the thing, and that boiler is constantly working, it is a problem. And I've been told it's been welded and repaired and repaired and repaired, and it's on its last legs, and if you tell me it's not, I beg to differ with you.
It's not.
I challenge anybody in this room to go down there and look at it, and as a common person, if I had that in my house, and when I have a principal that tells me she's been begging for 2 years to get it fixed, and a custodian that tells me that it hasn't been looked at or addressed, I have a real problem with it, with spending money on something that isn't taken care of.
So non-insulated. All right,
Well, we got an answer to Rod's question.
okay, Rod, we got a question, Rod, so we'll get an answer for you.
The coal bin, you mean?
Coal bin.
The coal bin is tied into the drainage because they're going to work hand in hand. They're going to work before you fill that coal bin in. You have to deal with some of those drainage issues because there's piping that goes through the coal bin.
I can,
There's piping that goes through the coal bin
yeah.
that has to be addressed as part of the drainage issue. So they go hand in hand doing them at the same time. It also works, there's some gas piping that goes through that room as well. So
In
it's
other
all
words,
tied together.
if we fill up the coal bin now, it would not be a smart move because we're gonna get water draining in there. We need to take care of the water issues first, then do the.
As part
And
of,
that's why I was getting at.
yes, as part of the drainage issue, we're putting a sump in the basement in a section of that coal bin.
Right.
And so all the drainage issues are tied together.
So you're saying we really don't need to take that high cost of that coal bin on medium?
Is it to fix the
We can
drainage?
defer that,
Yeah, right.
then that's why I put that as
That's what I wanted to
a
ask.
medium high.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, so you're going on the insulated route,
Yes.
on the roof. That's the recommendation, the uninsulated? Okay, okay.
The roof guy was suggesting the non-insulated was a fine replacement situation, so.
So, wrap up again. Gas lines? Yes. Before we make a motion. The drainage, Highland Lakeview, not the coal bin, correct? Good?
Yeah, and not the abatement inside, we have to separate that out. Part of that dollar amount for the Lakeview drainage was abatement inside, and I say, just wait for the abatement,
Could I
till we address the
defer to,
inside.
just real quickly, could I defer to Bill one more time? What do you,
Explain the abatement.
The coal bin and the drainage should probably be done at the same time. They all work hand in hand, they'll save money.
Can you talk about the abatement in room 131 at Lakeview?
No, you mentioned Highland,
Oh.
just doing the drainage.
Is that what you were talking about?
You talked about Highland drainage.
What's
So,
the coal bin?
well, so if we don't do the drainage at Highland, then we don't do the,
Coal bin.
Right. The coal.
so that's off.
But you said the abatement, you meant at Lakeview?
Yeah.
131, okay.
Yeah, because we're not using that room right now, so let's not go in there until we go in to touch the whole, because we probably do better when we go into, look at the whole inside and start that, so we stop the leakage first, stop the leakage first. And then when we go in to do all the tiling and everything that has to be done inside, we abate it.
Make sense?
Except that you've got a classroom that's not in service for
being
5
used.
years.
Yeah, right, the classroom hasn't been used for 5 years,
If we stop the draining, we won't be able to use the classroom until we abate it.
till we abate it.
Right, that is correct.
Which we plan on doing the drainage at Lakeview, is what I'm hearing you say. Or 131?
Stop any more deterioration or anything with the drainage coming in or any mold, get that issue completely under control.
So if we abate it now, we'd have a functional classroom next year. If we
Correct.
don't abate it now, we won't have a
Yeah,
functional classroom.
we haven't used it,
Until
we
do
haven't
the
needed
time.
it, yeah, we haven't used the classroom, we haven't needed the classroom.
Well, we
So-
need it, we haven't used it,
Okay.
but
If I need it, then I need, I heard.
What are we talking about dollars for the abatement piece?
I don't know what that is.
How much is that?
The abatement.
The abatement of that classroom, how much is just that
A
is?
drop in the bucket.
It's a drop.
Project.
It's not.
Okay, it's a small amount?
If it's a small amount, I'd say get it done so you can utilize the classroom.
Oh, okay, if it's a small amount, then I know some of my abatement I've looked at where I work has been hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, we're talking floor tiles.
About the one room.
Yes.
Even on the floor, yeah, even on the floor, we just looked at
One
that.
room right now.
Depends on whether it's in the mastic of the tile or not.
So what are we
Yeah, it's all
talking,
in there.
5, 10,000?
It's all in there together and
Probably
So
two.
cool.
3. Would be
2,
my
3?
guess at the
If it's
most.
2 or 3,000, 2 or 3,000 is doing.
that's not including.
You'll make it, okay, we'll take it.
2 or 3,000.
All right, so let me wrap it up. Try it one last time. Yeah, we're doing, so we are gonna, we'll start with the high school. We're gonna replace the roof. Section O, non-insulated. That was a recommendation from the roof guy. Okay?
Non-insulated?
Yeah, that was his recommendation. We're gonna move over to the gas lines, to replace the gas lines. There's a safety issue. We're also gonna do the drainage at Lakeview and the abatement of the broom.
Excuse me, that takes care of the drainage at Lakeview and Highland?
That's separate, they're two separate pieces.
We're gonna wait till.
We're gonna wait on Highland, because if you do the
Doing it
drainage
on
at
Highland.
Highland, you gotta do the cold bin.
Okay.
So we're gonna get that done. What else? Oh, I got the paving. At all the schools, the striping and all that.
Paving wasn't that much and everything this year,
No,
and maybe we need to go and talk with the city engineer before we, just see if he might help us out a little bit there. That's what they do, in a lot of districts.
I mean, I don't think that's, he said it was mostly just gonna be striping,
What we
right?
were looking at,
It was just striping?
striping was good.
Minimal patching.
Minimal patching.
Mostly striping.
All the striping was kept, the only thing that we updated on the striping was the crosswalk areas.
Yeah.
To make sure they were.
So just minimal, just 77, just minimal patching.
Correct.
And we are squeezing into the summer because of school closing being extended and the potential for the calendar next year to be starting early. So that asphalt is weather dependent as well. So we like to give as much room as we can in the bid process for the job to get done, so.
I'm sure the city's probably already got all your paving stuff already done and bidded out and done for the summer, right, John? Correct. So that's probably too water over the dam now for this year, but it's definitely something we have to look at going forward.
Yeah, we will definitely look into it. I'm not aware of the municipality bid process versus.
Yeah, let's see if we can do some tack on as an alternative bid on theirs
Sure.
going forward. Would probably save us some money and work as a collaborate together on that. All right, so we'll come back to paving, gas lines at Lakeview and Highland, the drainage at Lakeview,
And the high school roof.
and the high school roof, non-insulated, section O, correct?
Yep.
So we're all in agreement?
Yes.
Those are the 3 high items I had in my presentation, plus adding in the Lakeview floor.
We accomplished something.
So, can we make a motion?
You don't
You don't need to?
No.
All right, we know what we got.
We know what.
I want
we
to
got the
get
one
this
you
in the
want.
minutes and get it out to make sure we're all in agreement with exactly what it is, so the minutes come out the next couple days and get it to all of us, make sure we all sign off, we all, what we minutes say is what we all agree to.
Yeah,
So go forward, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I think, is anything else? We're good? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Armstrong, second by Mr. Armstrong, roll call.
Mr. Renacci.
Aye.
Mrs. Nasty.
Aye.
Mr. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong.
Aye.
Bye.
We adjourn.